Change is the only constant. Let love be the same. Change is the only constant. Let love be the same. Change is the only constant. Let love be the same. Change is the only constant. Let love be the same. In the nights we are neither created nor destroyed. In the nights we are neither created nor destroyed. We are transformed. We are transformed. We are trans. We are trans. We are trans. We are transformed.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you. Happy New Year, everyone.
And this year, the theme that has been chosen for the year is 100 Years of Science of Mind. And so what can we talk about 100 years of science of mind? Well, we're going to focus on some of the conversations that are in the book called Living the Science of Mind. And I love that book. It was used a lot in years past, and it's not used as much right now. But I'd like to get some more on the shelves because it's really a fascinating book to read and go through. It breaks up the science of mind Bible, so to speak, into livable, useful language in a particular order that makes it very easy to read and understand. So why did we pick this? Well, 100 years ago in 1918, Ernest Holmes started the Creative Thinking magazine. And I don't know if you've seen that one. It's a smaller little magazine. Started out as big, but it's a small little magazine. And it has articles, good to read, like our Science of Mind magazine that we use, but it had wonderful treatments for every day. And I used it as a student because it was fabulous to learn to help me learn how to do our prayer by reading that magazine every single day. So the idea in creating the magazine was to spread the whole idea of this principle of mind and the science aspect that we use our mind in our daily life. He wanted to spread the idea of awakening into humanity and into the world around us and how we live the substance of the universe every moment of every day. And so we want to celebrate that 100 years of science of mind and what we have given to the world through our form of this teaching and the movement that we call New Thought. So the Creative Magazine has come a long way, and like other print material right now, you can't purchase the magazine, it's only online. But it's still a fabulous thing to get a subscription for. And when you combine that with the magazine that we're accustomed to, the Science of Mind magazine, which we sell at our concierge table, if you read both of those together, you get a very well-rounded picture of our philosophy and the principle of our organization. So they're fabulous. I encourage those. So our topic today is what is science of mind and how can we use it? Ernest Holmes had a great idea at one point. He said, "Our time should be devoted to knowing the truth that sets humanity free from the problem of ignorance." That was one of his words he used a lot, but he didn't mean it in a bad way. He just meant there were things we didn't know yet. So he said, our time should be devoted to knowing the truth that sets humanity free from the problem of ignorance. That truth alone can bring enlightenment to the world. That people should live together in harmony because they have recognized the divinity within in each other, and that war should cease. And that was his goal. He studied the major religions of the world and found common ideas through all of them. And he put them together in a teaching that could supplement people's lives to teach them that we live in a loving universe, that we are created from a loving source, and that we can use the power of this source to improve our lives. He wanted to provide this information to as many people as possible that could help them change and be more in control of their lives. Up till this point, and even still today, we're taught through other faiths and lines of thought that we have no control, that we have to give ourselves over to something else. But that is not what Science of Mind teaches. Dr. Holmes had a TV show in Los Angeles in the 50s. It was called This Thing Called Life. He opened every episode by saying, there's a power in the universe stronger than you, and you can use it for good. In an oversimplified statement, the substance of the universe is alive, it is active, it is what we call the creative process, and it is always in motion. We can use it to affect our lives by keeping our thoughts and our feelings in a positive, grateful, forward motion, claiming our good in every moment. And this is the central idea of what this Science of Mind is and how we use it. Raymond Charles Barker, one of our early ministers, said that information heals, but reformation only causes guilt. In the history of some of the larger organizations of religion, they set out to reform their followers and the regions in the area. The people had to follow a rigid format. They had to run by standards and the boundaries of what that religion was. And those people had to follow that to be loved by God. And the tone was that God was punishing, and only a very select few could even get to that point where they thought God could love them. Ernest Holmes was raised Baptist, so he kind of understood that language. But that's not what he wanted to create. He wanted something different. His intention was to get new information out to the public. And this was information that could add to wherever each individual was in their life and expand from there. It was information that a person could choose to learn, not be forced for any reason or in any way. Information that would change how people saw their lives. Information that taught them that there was a new blueprint of instruction for their thoughts and their feelings. And when you put thought and feeling together in a particular direction, it causes things to change. It can change for good in your life. You no longer had to be stuck in a rut of fate that created painful situations in your life or lack or ill health. And it was something that was provable. You can learn to do this, you can practice it, you can see the results, and you can repeat the results. And you're in charge of your life. No one else is. Dr. Holmes began by speaking in people's living rooms to share this information. The groups became so large that they couldn't fit in living rooms anymore. They went to auditoriums and then to larger facilities because people started realizing how important this information was and how good it was and what a difference it was making in their life. And so his little magazine, Creative Thinking, was the start of reaching and spreading this information out far and wide. So Dr. Holmes did some research in the other faiths and philosophies and found that one of the first common threads he found was that the universe was created by one central deity. Most faiths believe that. And so I can go as far back as the Greek philosophers, as far back as 600 years BC, where they were attempting to figure out what the universe was, how it was formed, and how it functioned. Now, I could go through a list of some of those Greek philosophers, but I couldn't pronounce most of them. However, I'll let you do that. However, there was one that really catches my attention, and his name was Anaximander. I did good. I can't pronounce where he's from, but his name is Anaximander. So we look at about 550 BC, okay? And he said, his argue was that there was an indefinite substance, which he called the boundless, that was the source of all things. So we can go back 2,600 years and we're still talking about the same thing, a deity at the center of all of it. And man has always had some idea of a spiritual relationship with their central deity or the universe. There's always been something, some activity in group work from the beginning of time that wanted to celebrate or connect to some source of creation, a source of creation. And so the information that Dr. Holmes provided was offered in the hopes that each person could apply their own spiritual understanding to problems of everyday life, but in a way that was tangible and productive. Our understanding is built on the theory that there is one infinite mind, which is the creator of all of this, and is in all that it creates. And in the not too distant past, in our foundations class, we used to teach something that was called the 10 core concepts of the science of mind. That's another one of those things that is kind of not looked at as much as it used to. But it was a powerful thing that we used in every class. And core concept 1 reads, there is one cosmic reality principle and presence in the universe, God. All creation originates in one source, God is. God is all there is. Each human being is a creation of God, made of the God substance, a unique, individualized incarnation of spirit. This incarnated spirit is my essence. It is the essence of every human. And in the class, we would take that apart because that's kind of wordy. But still, we go back to that central idea. There is one central source. An important factor that does separate our teaching from other forms of mainline religion is the truth that we believe the universe never plays favorites. The universe does not separate one person from someone else in a higher place in life. In our understanding and our belief, all are equal in the eyes of the Creator. There is not a select few who could only know God's love. We believe each creation, each person that is created by God is loved equally, is seen equally. Every human being is created with the same seed of abundance, of love, and of freedom that can be had. But they must discover it themselves. And that's the key. Each person must learn to move from old thought and teachings of lack and set it aside, and learn how to accept the fullness of love of self, of love of others, and the seed of love from God is within us already. We are made with that. Everyone does it at their own pace and in their own way. And the result of what we experience is directly based on our understanding of what we take in around that. So the continual learning of the information is important. I'm looking at a friend in the audience right now. Hello, Elizabeth. Hello. When I joined this church, you were the first person who came to me and said how wonderful this was. And if you don't keep it in front of you, it doesn't go anywhere. It must be in front of you every single day. And I just have never forgotten that. There are 1 or 2 or 3 people that have stuck out like just billboards to me. And Elizabeth was one of them. Oh, look, she's going to cry. And here I am. Yeah, I kept it in front of me. So anyway, okay. So each person does it in their own way. But yes, keep it in front of you. That is the key. And you learn to do it yourself. And you let go of the old thoughts. Because we are all taught in the beginning somewhere, it's conscious, unconscious, it's spoken, it's unspoken, that we have to work our way up to God's love. We have to find it. That we're not good enough. But it's not the truth. You start out good. You start at the top. What would that be if from day one you realized you start at the top? You're not starting at the bottom of the ladder. And you took that in every day of your life. How would your life be different? Think about that for a minute. So, the end result of what we experience directly in our lives, like I say, depends on how we understand the information and how we take it in. So that's why we offer our classes, and that's why we have these books out here to continue to read every day and learn more about this. And the more you read it, the more you start to soften those old beliefs that we took in that aren't serving us anymore. So as we progress in deeper understanding, the results of our life and the experience of our life becomes fuller and richer. For our techie people, I will say that you could look at the science of mind as an operating system. How's that make sense to you? It's the base of all of our functions, but you have to follow the operating manual. And again, that's where our classes come in. And so when we do this, we have the opportunity to increase the capacity and restructure our health, our wealth, our creative expression, and loving relations, every area of your life. Okay, so how do we use this? How do we put all of this into work for us? Dr. Ken Gordon reminds us that the first important fact is that this principle is only as good as what we do with it and how we put it to work for us. You know, there's that old phrase, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink. Kind of the same thing. So you can hear us talk about it, and you can listen to other people give their experiences about it, and you can go, hey, man, that sounds good. That makes sense. I like that. That's different. But if you're not putting it into practice, you don't get to really have the effects. You don't get to really see the changes and the difference that can happen in your life. You can't grasp it unless you are in the practice of it. So when we use it, we open to living our lives in it, and it can transform us. When we hear about it and we go, yeah, that sounds good, but you've got to do it. And when we get to that point, I've had a lot of people say, that stuff doesn't work. That's crazy. You know, it's in a cult. It doesn't work. And I will tell you that if you go online and you Google religious science or science of mind, you will find the websites that tell us that it's all baloney and bullcrap. And it's a cult and it's evil and it's all that, because I read those things and I realize they didn't put it into practice. And they didn't take it deep enough. For those of us who have chosen to be practitioners, our lives changed. And so we had to keep going with it. It calls you. And for those of us who have gone up into ministry, it's like, I've never touched anything in my life that has made such a tangible difference on what I think I want to do with my life and what happens. So you have to put it into practice. And you have to do it. You have to work it. And you have to learn why it works. Because if you don't, then you fall away from it. You fall back. And then you begin to judge it. And you begin to judge yourself. And then you fall back into that whole thing about judging others. So you keep the information in front of you. And that's why we offer the classes. There's maybe a misperception that you can't take a class unless you think you're going to go all the way to be a practitioner. Like the people who are practitioners wearing the purple stoles. And I want to correct that, because that is just a misperception. The classes are open to everybody. The classes were started originally so that every single person who wanted to learn something new about this process, this information, could take it and put it into use in their own lives exactly where they are. So it has nothing to do with being a practitioner unless that is something that you want to do. So anybody can sign up for these classes and you can take them. They do run in kind of a sequential order, so you start with foundations. But even if that's the only class you take, you get to still understand what this is and how it works and to begin to practice it. And so that's important. Our next class coming up, we announced, is Spiritual Economics. And Eric Butterworth is fabulous. I love him. This is a fabulous book. Now, there's a ton of books out there and people talking about how they can teach you to change abundance in your life and they can, make you rich and famous and blah, blah, blah. Because every author who wrote a money book felt that their way was the one way and was going to work for everybody. It's that one size fits all. But that is not true. Because what happens with you and money is personal. What happens with your understanding of prosperity and abundance and how money works in your life and comes and goes out of your life is unconscious and has to do with you and you alone. And so it may have worked for that person and they might give you a few tips in their book, but until you understand what your hidden beliefs are about money, it doesn't go as far. So this is a class that was written about what the prosperity laws are in the universe and how that fits into you and how you can move into that. And so it's fabulous. It's just amazing. So I hope you will check that out and move into that class. And you don't have to have foundations to take that. It's open to everybody. Okay. Blah, 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 blah. So I said that quote earlier. I'm going to repeat it again from Ernest Holmes. There's a power in the universe greater than you are, and you can use it. And that's what the classes are about. Our classes provide an environment where you get to let go of the old ingrained rules that you can't do things and that you have no control of your life. And you get to learn what the new truth is for you and how you can use it. And that's very important. Oh, I hate when I do that. Okay, I go on and on and on. So I said earlier that the creative process of the universe is always in motion, always working. And it's creating your life as you go along, whether you are conscious of it or not. So the universe is always moving and always making things. So if you are unaware of this process, what you're thinking and feeling is still tapping into the universe, and the universe is still working its creative process through you. So what we like to teach is that we are co-creators with the universe. And so what we think and what we feel, just as I said, goes into the universe. So why not learn to work with that consciously? And if we work with our thoughts, see, normally we go through life kind of maybe, for some of us, if we think our life is, we think low of ourselves, or we don't think we can get anywhere, we don't think things can change, that becomes a rotating kind of conversation in our thought, and then our feelings kind of work with that too. And that's what the universe then taps into. So if we want to put out to the universe that we want to change our life, we start to change our thoughts and our feelings about ourselves and our life, and then we are grateful for the things that we want to change in our life, and that's what we put out to the universe. That's kind of a simplified explanation of what Science of Mind is and how we do it. We change our thinking, and that's really why we call it New Thought, because we have a whole new idea and thought about what we're doing and how we're doing it, okay? We used to have that sign at the other place that said, change your thinking, change your life. So what you do is you begin to have a new thought about what you want in your life. You have a feeling about it. The feeling that you have about what you want to bring in your life is the juice, the battery juice, the power that you feed into this thought that you have, this new creative idea, and then you be grateful for it. Remember, I've been talking about gratitude a lot in my talks because the universe works on gratitude. So we think about what we want, we put our feeling into it for what is the feeling behind the desire, and then we fertilize it with gratitude and thank you, and that's what we put out to the universe. And that is the co-creative process with God. That's what it is. And when we can do that, when we learn to do that on a regular basis, we start to get into that whole idea where they say, pray without ceasing. Now you might think from previous teaching or a previous past life that pray without ceasing is asking God for something on a regular basis. But we don't ask God for something because we believe and teach that God starts out loving us from the beginning and is right here with us all the time. So we don't have to ask God for something. We state what we want. That's the thought. We put our feeling behind it and know that God is present with us in the moment as we think it, and then we are grateful for that it has already happened. That's what we call our prayer, affirmative prayer, spiritual mind treatment. And when you learn this process, your thoughts can start doing this by itself on a regular basis. And it becomes fabulous because then your life begins to open up. Now, does this happen overnight? It can. It depends on how determined and willing you are to let go of things and do the work. Because, yes, it's some work, and it's some reading, and it's some practice. However, you are conscious about what is going on in your head and what's going on in your heart and your body, and therefore it works. Does that make sense? Take a breath. That's the co-creative process with God that is happening all the time. So why not be conscious of it and be awake with it and be aware with it? Because when we are unconscious and we're back in that thing where we think low of ourselves because of a childhood, or we think our life can't progress financially because we think only other people can have money, or we cuss the guy in the Ferrari who goes down the street, that could be you. Or how about the 20-year-old who just won $450 million? What was going on in his life the night before? So he's 20. So that could be you. There are people who win the lottery multiple times. I want to go follow that guy around. But the creative process is always working, but we have to find a way to love ourselves, to know that God loves us, and to love the world around us. And that's what will change. So, again, let me say it's thought plus feeling plus gratitude equals the outcome of an affirmative prayer or an affirmative affirmation. So I say the word God a lot today, and as I'm talking about this, and I get warned, oh, you should say spirit and universe and light instead of God. But let me just say that that's a word that flows lovingly from my lips. And I said last time I talked, I couldn't even say the word God or anything for a long time until I did some healing work. And so if you have a history from a previous background of God being angry and mean and punishing, like my father was an Old Testament guy. He would mail me stuff from the Bible to tell me how awful it was that I was going to a church where a woman spoke, and now I'm the woman speaking. So, yeah. But I love you, Dad. So if you have that in your background, I would just offer a suggestion to take the Foundations class next time it's offered. And allow yourself to learn about the word God as an umbrella term maybe, or just the fact that God is actually loving and giving and healing. Because it is different. So I offer that to you, to open to that. Okay, so lots of words, lots of detail. Did it make sense? Yes. Okay. If you have any questions, you ask me later. Ask a practitioner about what some of this stuff meant again, if you need to hear it again, because it's important. It's what we do. So, take a breath, blink your eyes, roll your shoulders, and take it in. And then I want you to think about for this week. There's a power in the universe stronger than you, and you can use it because it loves you, because you are its creation. You have an opportunity to change your life, to change every area of your life, if you want to, because nothing is forced on you. It's a choice. So I invite you to think about it. Okay? So let's take that into prayer. I invite the practitioners to come forward. So look at these lovely faces of these practitioners that are standing around the room. They know the truth. They know prayer. And they know how to speak the prayer for you. And if you would like a quick prayer after the service, there'll be a few practitioners here in the center, in the sanctuary here after the service, to do a quick prayer for you. And so now if you close your eyes, and so as I speak this spiritual mind treatment, this affirmative prayer, it is spoken in first person. It is spoken in the moment. right now. And you just take the words in as yours. And so I recognize right now that there is only one life. That life is good. That life is God. That life is my life now. And I know this to be true because I am a creation of the one God, the source of all that is. It is a source that is loving, that is giving, that is in constant motion, that is in constant creative motion, creating out of itself that only knows love and wholeness and good. As I know this is my truth, I know this is the truth of every individual in this room. And so I speak the word, knowing that love fills every individual that hears this word in this room, and whether it's watched online. And I also know that the vibration of the word love and the love of the divine creator expands not only in this room, but expands out everywhere in all directions. Because God is, and God is all there is. And so I know for each individual as they hear this word and feel the vibration of the word love and the creator that you simply use the three-letter word God, I recognize that a healing is available to take place for every individual to love themselves so much that the power and presence of the divine can't help but expand their hearts and their lives and all the good in their lives exponentially. I recognize that this Center for Spiritual Living is here in Salt Lake for a purpose. To be an environment and a place for people to come to learn more about their lives and themselves and what their thought and their hearts are capable of. And I give thanks for that. And so I know for each person today as they move forward, the seed is planted for self-love. The seed is planted for understanding that there's a place to reach into the universe and into that spiritual process to create the joy that they want to experience, to create the abundance that is there for them, to create the freedom in their lives that allows them to be what they want to be, to allow life to be good. And so I know a great blessing for that choice. And I give thanks for that. And in this blessing, I know great joy and love and blessings and spiritual guidance for the leaders of this country, for the creative process that is also working in them, and for every leader of this world. And that the light of spirit, of love, of harmony, of the fact that every individual on this planet is connected in the one awakens in our leaders and in the leaders of the world, so that all at some point can work together for harmony. It waits to just be acknowledged. And so with gratitude and love, I release this prayer into the law, the mechanics of the universe that makes it so. And knowing this good together and accepting, we say, and so it is.